Something's cooking in Kelsey's kitchen. Come on in, come on in. And if your belly's got that itching, come on in, come on in. The main ingredient is a pinch of loving, and only the best comes out of Kelsey's oven. Come on in, come on in, come on in.
Welcome to Kelsey's Kitchen. I'm Kelsey Nixon, and this is where we make fast, fun, and affordable meals. Today we are having a super show, and when I say super, I mean super, because we are making 3 different kinds of soup that are all amazing. We're making a chicken tortilla soup that's got some nice meat, a lot of texture to it. We're making a wonderful Tortellini Florentine soup that's great, has some nice pasta in it. And last but not least, we're making a broccoli and cheddar cream soup that has only 4 ingredients. I know you guys like those recipes with only a few ingredients, so that's a good one. Let's get started with our chicken tortilla soup. This is such a good soup. Make it all the time. I have friends who make it for baby showers and wedding showers because it's not very expensive to make a lot of it. So you can feed lots and lots of people and doesn't break the bank. So let's start off with some onion. I've already chopped half of this onion, and we'll go over the specifics of dicing an onion because it really looks more difficult than it actually is. So I've got that in there, got this on about a medium heat. Those onions will start to sweat, get some moisture in there. So what I did is I peeled the skin, the outer layer of the onion, and I sliced it in half, keeping the root intact. That way my onion's not going to fall apart. So then I put the heel of my hand back here, and I'm going to make a couple of slices right into the onion. Next, I'm going to make like a bear claw, put it on the back end of the onion, and just make some slices down the center. Now, once you've done that, you're simply just going to kind of seesaw through your onion, and you've got a diced onion. And in cooking, it's really not that big of a deal what size of the dice your onion is, just as long as in the end they're pretty much all of the same size, because that way they'll cook evenly. I like to go through and just kind of chop it up a little bit more. Because this is a soup, we don't want anyone to get a spoonful of a big piece of onion. That probably wouldn't be that enjoyable. But the onion does add a lot of flavor, especially to this soup, so you'll want to make sure to use it. People have asked me questions before about the different types of onions in the grocery store. You have Spanish onions, you have white onions, you have red onions. And, you know, Spanish and white onions can be interchanged pretty much. The red onion has a little bit more of a different flavor. I particularly like it in salads, things like that. And for this dish, I would recommend a white or Spanish onion. Spanish onions are yellow in color. So, making a mess, as always, in the kitchen. Let's get this onion in there. And you know we're going to add a little bit of garlic, because what's a good soup without a little garlic, right? So I'm going to pound on it there, and the skin's going to pull right off. Okay, there we go. Just going to chop this up. And the smaller you chop that garlic, the more intense the flavor is. So you'll want to make sure and do that real good. Same thing, we'll go through and just kind of mince it up. Oh, I can already smell those onions in there. They're sweating and they smell great. Now, soup. I'm telling you, this is a great thing, especially if you're in college, because you can make a big batch on Sunday and soup freezes like a charm. You just stick it in some of those nice plastic containers. And after cooking your soup, you want to make sure that it comes to room temperature before placing it in those containers and freezing it. But it freezes great. It's nice to have on hand. There's so many different varieties you can make. And I'm telling you, it's foolproof. It's almost impossible to mess up soup. I'm convinced. And as I was getting ready for the show this week and practicing these recipes, I said to my mom a couple of times on the phone, I forgot how easy soup really is. And I'm going to start making it a little bit more often too, I think. So, okay, this looks good. Now, if you're using garlic or onion in a soup recipe, you'll always want to start with that because it'll add flavor to your pot nicely. And once you sweat those onions and the garlic, the aroma just smells wonderful. Okay, next we're going to add our liquids. I have got 2 cans of beef broth. We're going to increase our heat just a bit now that we're adding some liquid. And this beef broth, that's a tongue twister, only costs you maybe 99 cents at the most. Don't pay over that, I'm telling you. And if you get a good deal, you can get it for as cheap as 36 cents. I'm all about the deals. And this is 1 can of chicken broth. And now they're making Seasons chicken broth. This actually has a roasted garlic flavor in it, so I thought I'd try that. Same price, why not? Next, I'm adding 1 can of, these are stewed tomatoes. Now, these also have certain flavors, like this is an Italian recipe with basil, garlic, and oregano. And it's great to kind of get any extra flavor that you can, especially in a soup. Now, the stewed tomatoes, some people like the bigger tomatoes. Some people like to chop them up, make them a little bit better for the spoon size in eating soup, but I kind of like that big texture that they add to my soup. Okay, next I added, this is just some diced tomatoes with green chilies. So basically all I'm doing is taking canned ingredients, throwing them in this soup, and you won't believe how great it tastes. Okay, so now all of our liquid's in. I'm going to add a couple more things. This is 1 4-ounce can of green chilies. I love green chilies. I know that there's some people that don't. I actually know a lot of people that don't, but I love them, and I love the color and texture that they give to this soup. And you know, the good thing about soups is that if you're missing 1 or 2 ingredients, your soup will still work. And if you want to add another thing or something like that, it's very, it's very kind to the experimenter, if you will. So we're adding some corn now. This is equivalent to 2 small cans of corn. And frozen corn will work also. It's a nice thing about soups. You can use frozen vegetables just as well as fresh vegetables. Then I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of chili powder and the same of some cumin. A little spice going on. Smells great. Okay, last but not least, we're adding some chicken. Now this is equivalent to about 4 chicken breasts, but I cheated. And this is a really good step that I would suggest that you take. You can buy the rotisserie chickens in the grocery store that are already cooked, they're already seasoned, for about $3 to $4. Then all you do is you bring it home, you just shred the meat right off the bone. It tastes great. It's good to have for salads, sandwiches, throwing in soup, and you know, if you really want to eliminate the step of cooking your chicken, it's a great option. So that's what I did. That's about 3/4 of one of those rotisserie chickens. And this looks good. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to bring this up to a simmer. It'll simmer for about 20 minutes just so those flavors really all come together and taste good. And when we're done, we want to serve it. Now this is the best thing about tortilla soup if you've got so many toppings for options. So let's look at this. I'm going to use an avocado because avocados are just incredible in my opinion. Picking a ripe avocado. Now that is something that you need to do because if you don't get a ripe avocado, it's never great. One way you can tell is you'll want to feel it, and if it's a little bit soft to the touch, you know that it's ripe. You don't want it to be too soft because that means it's too ripe and it could be bruised. And you'll see this little stem on the top, and if that will easily twist off and you can see green, you've got yourself a good avocado. So what we're going to do is take a chef's knife and you're just going to cut around the outside. There's a pit right in the middle. You want to twist it out, and then you can just kind of stick your knife in that. It'll come right out. Throw that away. And as you can see, this one is a little bit bruised. It's not too bad at all. But there's a couple of things you can do. I'm thinking that slices will be best to put on top of our soup, so I'm just going to take a paring knife and just slice right in here. Now if you wanted to dice this, you'd slice this way and then you'd also slice this way. And you can just fold it out, or you can actually take a spoon and spoon it out. But then you've got yourself some nice avocado slices. So that's all there is to it. Okay, we've got our, I'm gonna wipe my hands off here. This is our bowl of wonderful chicken tortilla soup. And we're going to dress it with some limes. I'm actually gonna squeeze some lime juice right in there. I'm such a fan, and just throw that right on top there. Maybe one more. Some cheese, because what's Mexican food without a little bit of cheese, right? I'm gonna throw a dollop of sour cream on top there, if I can get that there, and some cilantro. And last but not least, I'm going to top it with some of these great avocado slices that we just had. And you have got yourself a treat, I'm telling you. Let's throw some of these tortilla strips on top. Now, tortilla strips, all I did was I took corn tortillas, put a little bit of olive oil in this nice skillet, and just sauteed them right up. Lots of salt. I'm a big fan of salt. So that's all it takes. You've got this wonderful chicken tortilla soup. I'm going to take a bite, and when we come back, I'm making an incredible tortellini Florentine soup. It's a great pasta soup. You won't want to miss it.
Learning English can change your life. Watch Hello Channel.
Welcome back to Kelsey's Kitchen. We're on to our second segment of the day. This wonderful tortellini Florentine soup. Out of this world, one of my mom's favorite recipes. One of the things I love to go home for because she makes it all the time. So let's get started with couple of cans of chicken broth. We're going to add actually 3 cans of chicken broth, and if you don't want to do that, you can do 2 cans of chicken broth and a little bit of water, or a can of water. And you know, one thing that's kind of nice about soups is this is a little bit more of a hearty soup. There's not as much liquid in it, and it's got some wonderful fresh vegetables, and the tortellini is just great in it. But if you want to add a little bit more liquid, you can just simply add water. I would suggest using chicken broth or something with a little bit of flavor, but you know, soups, like I said, they're a great type of recipe to experiment with. Okay, so we've got 3 cans of chicken broth and 2 cans of these stewed tomatoes again. And like I said, because I like my soup kind of chunky and with all of those different textures, I'm not going to chop these up, but you could do that if you would prefer to do so. Okay, so that's our liquid base. Mix that up just a bit. Next, we're going to add some seasoning. This is a little bit of just general Italian seasoning. I'm using about 2 teaspoons. Next, I have some dried basil, 1.5 to 2 teaspoons. And last but not least, a little bit of dried parsley. Okay, now for the fresh vegetables. I am using 1 small zucchini and 1 small yellow squash. And I'm just going to take the ends off there. And you want to make them small enough so that your guests or whoever's going to be eating your soup can fit them in their spoon. And it doesn't make it really difficult to eat. So we'll chop these up. And then I think I'm going to have them one more time. So the way I like to do that best is just make almost a little stack of them, like so, and then just cut all the way down, and that should be good. Same thing here. These smaller ones should be okay. But like I said, just make them so that they're a little bit smaller, easier to eat in your soup. Okay, so this is going in. We've got our great squash. Next is the zucchini. And the thing that I like about adding both of these is that you get great color added to your soup as well. You've got the nice red base accented by the yellow and green vegetables. Really adds a nice touch. Okay. Same thing, these are getting away from me here. Half them and fourth them. Oh man, I love zucchini. I love winter squash, especially in soups. And I'm adding the zucchini and the winter squash before the mushrooms because the mushrooms will cook a lot faster than these. This soup recipe doesn't call for any meat, but if you wanted to add some chicken, you're more than welcome to do so. But that cheese tortellini is just so good in it. Okay, now that this is incorporated, let's chop up these mushrooms. I'm just going to give them a quick chop just because, same thing, easier to fit in the spoon. Cutting board's getting away from me here. Those ones are chopped. This is about a full cup of mushrooms. But like I said, I like my soups meaty, so you don't necessarily have to use this much. It's all just a guide. And if you don't like mushrooms, feel free to use a different type of vegetable. It's all up to your own preference. Oh, but these mushrooms are so good. Combination of the mushrooms, the zucchini, the squash, you can't beat it. Okay, so once our fresh vegetables are incorporated, let's talk about this for a second. Fresh versus frozen vegetables. I get that question every now and then. Especially in soups, it really doesn't matter. If you're going to freeze soup, I would suggest using frozen vegetables. Whereas freezing something like mushrooms and squash, it'll still work, but you probably won't get the desired consistency that you're after. So you can buy frozen squash and zucchini. You can even buy frozen mushrooms. And if you'd rather just throw those in, go ahead and do so. It's a little bit cheaper to buy them fresh and cut them on your own. And I prefer the taste of fresh vegetables over frozen vegetables any day. But it is a little bit more convenient. So we are going to let this, let's turn the heat up just a bit. We're going to let it come to a boil. And as soon as it's come to a boil, we're going to add that amazing cheese tortellini. Oh, this is a good recipe. I like this one. Now that our soup has come to a boil, we're going to add the best ingredient, in my opinion. We are adding tortellini. Now you can buy frozen tortellini. If you do that, it's going to take a little bit longer to cook, or you can buy the pre-cooked tortellini in the refrigerator section. And I got this for only $3.75, 20 ounces. That's a lot. So the recipe only calls for 16 ounces, so I'm going to put the majority of this in, but leave just a little bit out. And since this is pre-cooked, we just need this in here for about a minute or so, and we're ready to go. So get that nicely incorporated. Oh my goodness, it smells wonderful. And the color of all of the different vegetables looks incredible. Like I said, one of my favorites. Now, serving suggestions for the tortellini Florentine soup. I would suggest using or serving it with a nice baguette or some nice French bread, as we have right here. Complements it real nicely. In fact, I am going to take a bite. Such a great soup recipe, I'm telling you. This is a good one. This freezes like a charm. It's a little bit more elegant. Maybe you're making dinner for some people on a Sunday or something like that. This is a really good option. And when we come back, I have the soup recipe that I promised with only 4 ingredients. It's a wonderful broccoli and cheddar cream soup that you're not going to want to miss. See you in a few.
Thanks for watching Hello Channel. Learn the language of the internet, travel, commerce, and diplomacy. Watch Hello Channel and learn English. Do it for yourself.
Welcome back to the final segment of Kelsey's Kitchen, our super edition, making a wonderful cheddar and broccoli soup. So creamy, so great. 4 ingredients. Now come on. Who can't make that? Seriously. And surprisingly, it tastes so good. I'm not going to lie, I was a little skeptical when I saw the recipe and was coming up with it, but it turns out great every single time. It's wonderful. Now you'll notice that we are making this soup in a crock pot. Not on the stove, but on the crock pot. And the reason I like this method is that it's really nice to throw all the ingredients in your crock pot before you go to school or work in the morning. Stick it on low. This particular soup cooks for 6 to 8 hours, and when you come home, your house or apartment smells great and dinner's done. So we are adding 1 pint of half and half. Now half and half is similar to cream. It's not as heavy, and it's a nice soup base for a cream soup. So whoops. Added that. Next, we're adding 2 cans of cream of celery soup, which is interesting. I'd never used cream of celery before, but I really like the flavor that it gives to this particular soup. It's kind of a nice complement with the broccoli and the cheese. So scooping this out, and lots of times when you use these, you'll add an additional can of water with this, but because we're using the half and half, it's not necessary. So we'll add these 2, and you'll notice this is pretty thick, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a whisk and whisk my half and half together with the cream of celery soup. Okay, that's all in there, and let's whisk this together just a bit, get it nicely incorporated. Cheddar and broccoli soup is just, I mean, it's so common, and it's something that everybody likes. And so it's a good soup to know how to make. One thing I was going to mention about soups is I've actually been to a soup party. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to one, but I went to a soup party a couple of months ago where everybody brought a different kind of soup and a different recipe. It's kind of like a cookie swap, but a soup swap. So if you're a fan of soup, that's not a bad idea. Okay, once that's incorporated, we are going to add 20 ounces of frozen broccoli. And we're just going to dump that right in. Nice green color. And the last ingredient is 8 ounces of a nice Velveeta cheese. I have cut it up into some cubes here and just going to distribute that in here. And that's really all you need to do. Give it a quick stir so that everything is mixed up, and then you're off to work or school. Your soup cooks away all day long. You come home to a wonderful smelling house or apartment, and you're good to go with your cheddar and broccoli soup. Make sure it's on low, not on high. 6 to 8 hours, like I said, and you're good to go. Now, a serving suggestion for the cheddar and broccoli soup is a bread bowl. Now, a bread bowl is always a good idea. I'm such a fan of bread bowls. During Thanksgiving time, they have the bread bowls that look like pumpkins with the little stems, but you can get bread bowls at your grocery store or your local bakery any time of the year, and they're always fun to serve your soup in. So before I take my last bite, I want to thank you for joining me on Kelsey's Kitchen today and remind you that you can get any of these recipes or additional recipe ideas that are fast, fun, and affordable at www.kelseykitchen.com. We'll see you next time.